YouTube. Matthew chapter 23. Let's look at verse. Let's look at 1. Yehoshua to the multitude. Is that where I want to start? Yes. Let's do. So it's then spake Yehoshua to the multitude and to his disciples, saying to the scribes and Pharisees, sit in Moshe's seat. What is speaking about who are looking for his demise. Am I right? Yehoshua. They had only ill intentions. Was a to entrap him in order to uh, get him to see something that would justify a quick Melech Dawid. A list, their authority is legitimate. He said, watch this. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe and do, obey them. Do what they say. Tell these people to obey and do what the men who trying to kill the seed of Moshe. He said, but do works they say and do not. They telling you the right thing because they reading the law. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not bear false witness. Regardless of the fact that they are hypocrites, is what they preach. You still have to do what they say is in law. They're telling you, they're preaching the law. It takes wisdom and humility. Something. Police officers, police personnel themselves break the law. They tell you in your car to stop at a red light or to put your seatbelt on or to disperse or that the park is closed. In other words, It is not for you to say, will you sin too? Because that is the right thing to do. It's not about the same thing goes for your husband. The same your because there's not going to be a man among men who's going to stand before you. So if you're waiting for a sinless man to say go and do or stay and do not, then you negate among those whom you is given authority. He says, although whatsoever ye after their works, for they say and do not. But you have to submit, not John 4. Y'all kind
Excuse me, that was Matthew 20.
of, yes,
What verse is that?
1 through 3, I think. John 4. Again, we show that the Father's order has not changed. Everything given to us through Moses were a template, a foreshadow. Look at Yalkanan 4, verse 19, 16. At the well, go call thy husband. Why is he telling her to do this? Let's go up to verse 10 or verse 9. Verse 7. Cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Joshua saith unto her, give me to drink. Disciples were going unto the city to buy meat. Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, askest drink of me, which am a woman. The Yehudim no dealings with Samaritans. And Yehoshua answered in the Elohim, and who it is that saith unto thee, give me to drink water. Right? So what then to draw with? And the well is deep. From art thou greater than our father Yaakov, which gave us the well, and drank thereof him and his cattle? Yehoshua answered and said unto her, whosoever drink of this water shall not thirst again, but whoso drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall well, a well of water springing up to everlasting life. right? He's offering her salvation. He's offering her peace, right? He's offering everlasting life. Saying if you knew who it was, you would have been asking me. Watch this, verse 15. And the woman said unto him, Sir, give me this water, neither to draw. So now she's asking. So Yehoshua said unto her, Go, call thy husband and come. Here's the thing. Although he has met with this woman, just simply give her what she asked for. He's not going to circumvent the among men. That the father will deal with the head of the family. And everywhere you have read throughout the scripture, that deals with the family through the man. So he gets here, go call your woman answered and said, I have no husband. Joshua said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no 5 husbands. And he whom thou now hast is not thy husband, in that says, and the woman said unto him, Sir, I perceive you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. This is in that day. It was disputed whether Samaria or in Jerusalem. And how men are, which one men should worship on. And her woman believed the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem, ye know not what. Salvation is of the what? The Yehudim. So this changed. Let's go to 10. The Father's order has not changed. The world doesn't want to submit to the order that he set in place from the beginning. He says, the Yehudim answered him, him is Pilate. Let's go up a little bit. Verse, Pilate therefore went forth again and said unto them, Behold, I bring him wearing a crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said unto him, Behold, the priest therefore and officers saw him. They cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify. Said unto them, Take ye him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. And yet ought to die, because he made himself the son of Elohim. He was the more afraid. He was the more afraid. Watch again into the judgment hall. So now he's about to interview Yahweh, but Yehoshua gave him no answer. Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have thee and I have power to release thee? So reminding Yehoshua of his authority. Now, mind you, this trial is taking the land of Israel. And here's this Roman saying, I got the power to kill you or let you go. But he's in Israel, right? Yehoshua answers, have no power at all against me, except it were given to thee from above. You could not have any power against me unless it was given. Now, a lot of people have stopped right there. Power. God gave Pilate the power to put Jesus to death because they don't finish the verse. Watch this. He says, therefore, unto thee hath the greater sin. So who is them that deliver to Pilate? Who has this greater sin? The Pharisees. So what is he telling Pilate about where his power is coming from? He said, thou couldst have no power at all thee from above. Therefore, he that delivered me unto thee hath. Yehoshua is saying in a very to an empirical power. He has no power in the land of Israel, except and unless Israelites give it. He's telling Pilate that the real authority in this land are the people that's over to you. This is why I'm not answering you. You have no authority in Israel. He's telling the very diplomatic, you don't have no authority here. Authority that the children of the promise giving you. They give authority away to the Romans by bringing him to Pilate. This is why they have the greater sin. Turn to Matthew 16. Matthew 16. Again, we're talking about authority and order. No. Hold your Romans 11. Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11, verse 1. Say then, have Elohim cast away his people? Elohim also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. This is after the Messiah was taken. He's telling them rhetorically that the Father has he gotten rid of the template that he set from the beginning. But I also am like the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. Elohim have not cast what the scripture of Elijah saith of Elias, how he made to Elohim Israel, saying, Master, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thine altars and left alone and seek my life. But what said the answer of Elohim unto him? I have even so then at this present time remnant according to the election of grace. Hey, listen, Israel is in. The Father has always had a remnant. And as long as that remnant is the order that the Father set for the kingdom, is verse 6. And if by grace, then is it no more of works? Grace, but if work of works, then it is no more grace. Otherwise, work is no more work for. But the election have obtained it, according as it is written, Elohim hath given them the spirit of slumber day. And Dawid said, let their table be made a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened, and that they might not see. Then have they stumbled that they should fail. Elohim for stumbled that they should fail. Elohim forbid. The Father has not abandoned the plan. It was placed in the Father's overall plan. Just like the of parents does not negate the authority in the house. I'm not talking about uh, leadership who is, because some people require me to acknowledge person in it can't make any mistakes. He says, have they stumbled their fall? Salvation has come to the Goyim, the Gentiles. Of them be as riches to the world, and the diminishing of them inasmuch as I am the apostle to the Gentiles. I them which are my flesh, talking about Israel. He said them which talking about. So that means that the people he talking to has nothing to do with Israelites in Gentile lands. He's juxtaposing them against those who are his flesh. Wayward Israelites who have uh, uh, gone to other lands and have become on and so forth, would still be his flesh. They DNA didn't change to obedience to the law. He's just talking about the flesh. DNA Israelites. He said that I may provoke which are my flesh and might save some of them. For if casting away of them, right? What shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? Holy, the lump, and if the root be holy, so are the branches. Boast not against the branches. He's talking to the Gentiles. These are Europeans. He said, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou will. So doing here something sparked this conversation that happened, or some discussion that has come up among them in Rome, the believers in Rome, whereas that the Gentile believers began to believe to Israel kingdom by way of their faith. I believe that this was we know today as theology that Shaul was addressing. As it is also called. But what Shaul is, I don't care how much faith you have. I don't care how righteous you are. Going to go around, over, under, through the Father's. The root supports the branch the way around. Watch this, verse 20. Verse. And the branches were born that I might be grafted in. Right? He says, well, because of unbelief they were broken up. And thou standest by faith. Be here. Sometimes we see the downfall of leadership. We see the humbling, those who were placed among, lick our chops. And I'm saying we, not meaning me, but we, and right? We see the boss getting chewed out by his boss. We see our parents, they parents. and we lick our chops. See? But he said for you to be high-minded, but to fear. Because if they can get it, that means you can get it. You can definitely get it. You are not higher. So when you see those who are over you taking their lumps, you need to be like that, watching Big Sister get his whooping. You better be in the corner praying they don't come to you next. He said, the natural is take heed lest he also spare not thee. And severity of Elohim on them which fail, severity, but towards thou also shalt be cut off. Watch this. And they, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for Elohim is able to. Verse 25, for I would not, brethren, that own conceits. This is what is going on. The faults somebody else, and they're becoming wise in their own conceit. Not understanding with Israel, only dealing with leadership. To get together so that they can lead given to the own conceit. That blindness in part happened to it. So you understand that all the way to the end, Father does not abandon his order. Let's go to Revelation 7. Number of them which was sealed, and there was sealed 144,000 of the tribes of the children of Israel. Right? Let's jump down to verse 9. And lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And no man can number, of all nations. If there were no more Israel, the separation of Israel from the rest of the nations, the lead, what it's doing in Revelation. Why is there a distinction between and the multitude? Why aren't they just mixed in with the rest of the multitude? 14. He said, I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with 144,000. That saying we already know from reading in chapter 7 that this 144,000. And I heard a voice from Hashmayim as the voice of many waters. Harps. Watch this. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the and the elders. So here we still see, even in the kingdom of Hashmayim, an order. There's a throne. There are the four beasts, the Melachim, and then there are the elders. You still see the same order that you saw. Everybody has their place. Israel has its place. 4,000. Let anyone tell you that there's no distinction between this 140 and the rest of the multitude. There is something special, and they are separate. In the kingdom, they are all have their place. He says, these are they which would not defile with women, for they are virgins. These are they whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits without fault before the throne of Elohim. Does that mean that there were no good multitude? No. But the Father has a plan. There is a design that the Father has. Genesis, Galatians. So why is it that Israel has a problem? Love to say we in Israel. Salvation cometh by way of. We love to say it. We love to remind everybody. Yah's order when it comes to Israel. But what about Yah's order within Israel, within the Hamashiach? Now, let's to Matthew chapter 16. Let's start at verse 13. When Joshua came into Philippi, Philip asked his disciple, saying, hey, thou art Yohanan the Baptist, some Elias, some said unto them, but whom say ye that I am? And Shimon Kephah, Simon Peter, answered and said, HaMashiach, the Christ, the Messiah, the anointed one, answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Shimon Bar Yonah, my Father which is in Hashmayim, that thou art Kephah, my assembly, my church shall not prevail against it. I will give you, thou shalt bind on earth. Now we're talking about authority that is being by the master. He's giving him the keys. He's handing him the keys to the kingdom. And he's saying, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on shall be loosed in heaven. This is what Israel has a problem with. Many of us do not understand that there are matters that are given to us that we are judge. Some of us have a problem with submitting to that authority. Some of us have a problem with exercising that authority. Both are wrong. If I give you the keys, I ask you to utilize the authority that I give you in a way that is productive, not tuck the keys into your sit on your laurels. He has seen something in Peter and said, you know what? I'm leaving you in charge. The rest of the students, disciples, in verse 20, he says, then he charged the disciples that they should know man that he was Yehoshua HaMashiach. He told verse 21, he says, from that time forth began Yehoshua to show his disciples, his students, how that he must and raised again on the third day. So he's revealing himself to his students, his disciples. But he has given his disciples the keys and told them whatever they bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Our problem is we don't like submit to that authority in men. Some of us, out of what I mentioned earlier, fake humility, afraid to exercise that authority. Who am I? But because secretly, when you subconsciously or we know that if in wield authority, you have to submit to somebody else's. You ever know first name? Don't call me ma'am. Don't call me so and so. Call me Pat. Call me John. I always looked at that as fake humility because I have learned that there's another spirit behind that. And that is people away from their responsibility exercise authority rightly because they don't want to submit. They don't want to have to submit to those over them. In reverse, they're trying to set the press body, sir. So I'm not going to make nobody else call me sir. Because I'm not about to submit to somebody else. And it's, it's one of those things. Subtle. People who don't want to submit often don't want the job of a supervisor. And they don't want the job of a supervisor. They don't want to submit. And this is one of those things that it's experience to teach you. It takes a certain level of discernment. But if you notice, it's all the people who give the one in command the hardest time ever wants to take that role on. The authority. He said, let's look at Ephesians chapter 4. And this is all stemming from conversations that I've been, because Israel is having a problem with this. I was reading this post yesterday or the day before. I'm here. She said that I'm here to I'm here for, and anybody who's interested, I'm paraphrasing because I can't, anybody who's interested in courting me, you have to talk to my more. Any courtship type of situation. And I already knew what I was gonna see after that, but I just didn't. And the comments were split right down the middle. Yup, that's in order. And you heard teaching, or the teaching that she was receiving, that somebody needed to make sure that we were chain of command. And she didn't say more, she said her bishop, you in a cult, you controlling. Getting, and no woman was ever, or man in the scripture was, do you see, right? If we have any deep involved, somebody and above those who were getting married, parents, what is it like? Sons, it was somebody, it was Abraham's designee to go out and find. But see, when you have advice and your counsel is going to be corrupt and it's going to, folk got a problem. Certain term, deacon. Okay. But here's the thing. We having this whole conversation in English. Simply because they use terminology in a different mean that it wasn't Yah ordained. They are still elders, rulers, captains. It's the order that you have to, that, but see, let's go to the scripture. In chapter 4. Let's start at 1. Joshua, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the spirit in the bond of peace, and one spirit. We have our places. So when somebody says body of Hamashiach, well, the same scripture says there's no male and there's no. So what does that mean? He's talking, in other words, he's talking about as a whole, how we, one master, one is above all and through all and in you all. Still has its place. The one don't negate or circumvent the other. Unto every one of us is given great gift of Hamashiach. So even though we're one in spirit, in purpose, in terms of the kind of Elohim and his purpose, just like your physical body is one, but you have a right, your right hand, if handed, is dominant, and your left hand helps your right hand. If you left-handed, your feet have their purpose, your hands have its purpose, have their purpose, your liver has its purpose. But it's work together in concert for one purpose. They all serve one.
Absolutely.
So they are one in. So when he said there's no Jew, no Gentile, no man, no woman, he's of oneness. Make it go. Drive, reverse. They don't all, but they all work together. That's all that meant. For a woman's job, it's like your trans do, and your do what your transmission do. You can't switch them. Work together to the common purpose. That's all there's. But guess what? Everybody has their place, and that order still live away your heart. You will die. Your liver can't do what your heart do. You can't put your brain where your kidneys are. It won't work. These parts are not interchangeable. But unto every one of us, grace is given according to the measure of the gift of Him. So everybody's given their authority and their gift according to the master, the head. You to be this, I want that. Just like he did in the days of Moshe. He had his criterion. That's what? He therefore, okay, that's it for that. Let's see. Go to Timothy. 1 Timothy 3. Because because to work. But we ain't gonna work if we don't ourselves. And how are we going to be fruitful in adding to the if we dysfunctional as a body? Look at Timothy. Slicha. I want to make sure this is where I want to go first. Okay. Yeah. Chapter 3. Start on this wise. It says, "This is a true saying. If a man desire bishop, he desireth a good work." Now, for bishop, just like we text each other in English. See, don't get language that is written. These are still Israelites. These are still Israelites, and the concept still Israel. It's still Hebrew in concept. Just like father-in-law told him, choose men of good rapport to be captains of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Just like the father told elders of Israel, and say unto them thus and so. It has not changed. We are a people led by our elders, not the youth. Because that's all you hear in the Christian church. The youth is why they out of order. Okay? Episcopate. Episcopate. Right? Uh, it means as a verb to inspect, to investigate. So this is inspector, somebody who judges, who and judges, right? It also means oversight, somebody in charge, somebody who is overseeing, making sure going as they should. Somebody who comes in, look down to see that all is in order, that everything is compensated, get compensated. Let's go back. Must then be the husband of one wife or his first wife, vigilant, apt to teach. This is not different than advice to Moses by his father-in-law. The precedence is there. Not given to no striker, not a brawler, not greedy lucre, hungry, but patient, not a brawler, not covet. What did in the Exodus 18?
Not to take bribes.
So you see, this is what he's saying. Not look back, peek back at us, chapter 18. He said in verse 21, out of all the people, men such as fear Elohim, men of fear Elohim. Look back at Timothy. And the men be vigilant, of good behavior. Go back to Esther. He said, men of truth. To Timothy, he says, right? Go back to Exodus. He says, where are we at? Hating covetousness. It's a direct quote. Go back to Exodus. Timothy. Look at verse 3, right there at the end. Not covetous. Getting this from. This is why I don't understand, but because it's obvious to me. He's taking inspiration directly from Moses. Right? Exodus, he says, verse 20. I'm sorry. Hating covetousness and places, right? And he says, and let them judge the people. These are judges. These are judges. Go back to Timothy. He said, not given to wine of filthy, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, one that what? Rule children is subject with all gravity. For if a man else, how shall he hear of the assembly of Elohim? See, we get caught up. This is just the language that they were speaking at the time. We hadn't spoke Hebrew, read it and write it and speak it, but they didn't use it. Pretty much only the learned spoke Hebrew in the synagogues. Explain it or interpret it to the people among the crowd. This is what they did in the synagogues. But the people every day spoke Aramaic. And those who were educated system, just educated in the Gentile system, they spoke and wrote Roman and like English is today. So all this is just Most High gave to Moses through his father-in-law. Moshe paid obeisance to. Not the man, but to his authority, because we have to understand where authority comes. Concept of a comes from the Most High, and it keeps mirroring it, and it mirrors. So we submit to authority, not a man, but what we submitting to? Order. Yah's order. He says for that if a man abuses his authority, the father will take him out. David and Shaul. and thrust him. The Father will take him out in such a way that he will know that it's the Father that has done this thing. That's not for the faithless. Watch this. He says, not a novice, lest being lifted to condemnation of the. Moreover, he must have a good report and the snare of the devil. Likewise, must the deacons be grave. What is a deacon? Deacon is a transliteration of the Greek word diakonos. Diakonos, I'm sorry. Diakonos. Right? Is one who executes the commands of another. The bishop. The bishop gives the command, executes the command. Somebody says servant, minister, the servant of a king, a waiter. Understand? That's going to be the one who immediately deals with the people, just like Moses' father told him, you got to have captains of captains. Because if you try to do it all yourself, you're going to wear yourself out and you're not going to serve. You're not going to do everybody a disservice. You're not even going to serve the Most High well. Has precedence in Torah. It's not something the Greeks made, but you have to read. You have to study. Right? And there's a criteria. You see? He says, likewise must the deacons be grave. What is grave?
The courage to do something even when others disapprove.
Uh-huh. What? It started with an I.
Integrity.
Integrity. Right? Of good character. Honest. Honorable. Right? He said, must be grave. What else? Not slanderers. Full in all things. The deacons be the husband of one wife or the first wife, ruling their children and their Same requirements. For they that have use of the officers well purchase to themselves a good degree and a great and faith with Hamashiach Yehoshua. Same chapter 1, verse 7 says, for a bishop must be blameless, self-willed, it can't where he using all the resource, everybody's kind of fiefdom in the church. Everything should be to the benefit of the church, his family included. He says, not self-will, free. Right? This is how you know fit for leadership. Not giving the wine, no striker, but a love of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate. You say this is Greek. Says hold to by sound doctrine, both to exhort. Be ready with that. Hey, he says, not giving heed to Jew commandments, because we got a lot of Hebrew Israelites. We got a lot of commandments of men, and I ain't talking about Israel that don't know they is in the mosque, in the city. Those who call themselves Israel according to the prophecy. It's a lot of Hebrew Israelite fables. Be able to discern when you not to Hebrew like conspiracy theories and the commandments of me turn from the truth. Hey, listen, the Father gave us if you believe, if you faith, do you have with submitting to enough with this fake humility? Who am I, brother? No, you have a responsibility. You've been called, Israel. You want to walk in your authority because you don't want to submit to authority. You don't want to be held accountable. I see through it. I see through it. You know how I know? Because I struggle with it myself. You a lesson. The Father always give me lessons that hit me first. Me and Moray. Hey, Moray. Hey, Moray. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Cool that out. But it wasn't just purely out of the sense of there is none good but Yah, and because I understood the gravity of it. I didn't want it. Wrong for that. Folk wrong for don't call me Miss So and So, Mr. So and So. You're wrong. That's fake humility. You have a responsibility to those children, and you present something to do. Your playtime is over. Accept it, embrace it. It's your time now. You have to be to them what somebody was to you. You needed adult skills when you needed a Mr. So and So, a Mrs. So and So. Erase the boundary for those who to whom who was given to submit to those above us, and that's what the real issue is. Or we don't want to the responsibility and the accountability of being in charge. Don't worry, if you don't do well with it, it will be taken from you. Not calling and stop running from it. Us to submit to each other's authority and stop every decision leadership makes. We work together. My we work together, and sometimes I keep her sharp and she keep me sharp. But in front of the men, hey, listen, you know, from a woman. Hey, Chief said so and so. Hey, what we doing? Let's go. Get them on. That the fuck. I'm not confused. Is however I understand the overall authority. I'm not submitting to a woman. I'm submitting to a chief. And if she know more, what is the big deal about listening to wisdom? Nothing. But the problem is we think, well, I'm stronger than you. I'm strong. I'm stronger. That's not how that works. You might be stronger in one thing, weaker in another. You have to bow down to the authority, not to the man, to no idols more than me. This person has a station, a position, and for the sake of the body, in order, because listen, I'm gonna tell you something. I've close to somebody they life because they had a problem taking. They didn't think, you know, knew what they was talking about, or they didn't think should. And I've seen it in real life, happen in real time. Happened to me and happened to others that people say, he don't, I ain't gotta listen to him. Or a body part, because they don't want to listen. Who is she? All right. Hamashiach chose Peter for a reason. I don't care what you think of James. I don't care. James should have been next in line. He the one, that's the sharpest. Huh? So let us walk humbly. Let's go there. Micah and end with this. Since we're talking about submission, Micah chapter 6, verse 6 says, wherewith shall I come before Yahweh and bow myself, come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old, thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn, fruit of my body, and of my soul? He that showed thee, oh man, what is good? Oh, what is good? Watch this. He hath showed thee, the Father, the most humanity, what is good, and what doth your mercy, and walk what? Humbly. Do justly, love mercy, and walk. These are the traits of a. If you choose your leaders, not the one who sing the best, not the one who him and not that one. Why? Because man look on the outward appearance, but to those who love mercy and walk humbly, this is the criterion that the Father has given. These are the men of good rapport. Yahweh's verse 9, Yahweh's voice crieth out unto sin of wisdom. shall see thy name. Hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed. This is what the man of wisdom does. And who hath appointed it? God's voice. Not the one who talk tough and act mighty, the cantankerous, the men who just like to argue and fuss and fight. This is what you got in Shaul, the first king. But the one, know if there's any questions or comments on today's lesson, I will give thanks and honor to the who believe, to acknowledge his way. They are ordered by his prophets, and especially by the example of his only begotten son, Yehoshua HaMashiach. So with that being said, Shabbat Shalom. The floor is now open for questions. Be any.
Okay, hallelujah. Excellent. Break it down to us very elementary way of understanding. The world is so far removed from this, and this was a great reminder. Start that has gotten off this track, this mindset. We live myself in high era time. Only person's opinion is important is law and order, and Torah Rabbah for allowing the spirit to this lesson and this understanding, to re-impregnate us, with the Father. As this conversation is concerned, submit is a bad word. People, you're about to start a fight. Excellent lesson. It's very refreshing. My spirit is filled.